There has long been a saying circulating online that you should avoid staying in the last room at a hotel whenever possible. In my impression, the reason this idea became so popular is largely because of an incident I'm about to talk about. The story that came out of it still influences many people to this day. I first heard this story around 2022, and it really left a deep psychological shadow on me. For a long time afterward, it completely changed my habits when staying at hotels. As everyone knows, the vast majority of hotel rooms have a television, but for some reason, in certain hotels, the TV just won't turn on, and no one knows whether it's to save electricity or simply to cut costs and make more money. Moreover, in most hotels, the television is placed directly facing the head of the bed. Ever since I heard that story, I've been especially afraid of encountering this situation whenever I stay at a hotel. The TV won't turn on and stays black with the dark screen facing the bed, perfectly reflecting my own face. Every time I stare at that black screen, I can't help but let my imagination run wild, always worrying that the next second some other face might appear in the reflection. That sense of fear is truly impossible to shake off. So today, I'm going to talk about a true experience shared by a netizen in November 2021. This story left a psychological shadow on countless listeners at the time, myself included. Next, I'll walk you through this bizarre incident that happened in Wuxi County, Henan, following the complete timeline. The story goes back to March 2019. The person who experienced it firsthand is named Ah Feng, who is from Hefei, Anhui, and works in Changzhou, Jiangsu. Accompanying him was a female colleague named Yumi, who is also from Hefei. The two of them were not only fellow townspeople but also colleagues, and they had a very good relationship. The company had organized a week-long market integration training. 5 of us, 4 men and 1 woman, went on a business trip to Wuxi County, Jiaozhou, Henan. The other 3 men were still in Shijiazhuang, finishing another project. They could only arrive a few days later, so Afang and Yumi set out first to handle the preliminary coordination work. On the morning of Sunday, March 17th, Afang and Yumi flew from Nanjing to Zhengzhou, and after landing, they transferred to a long-distance bus. After a bumpy journey, they didn't arrive in Wuxi County until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. The local school official was very welcoming and had been waiting at the station for them. After picking them up, he drove them to the reserved hotel. The car slowly stopped on the right side of a T-junction, and as he got out, the official casually remarked, "This place used to be bustling, with a constant flow of people and vehicles. Now, with roadwork at the entrance, there are hardly any people around." The hotel in front of them was a standalone 7-story building, standing alone by the roadside. There was even a stone pillar resembling a huabiao at the entrance, making it look particularly out of place. Due to the road construction, most of the restaurants along the street have closed down, and the few that remain open have little business. The entire street feels desolate and bleak, completely devoid of vitality. Even though it was still afternoon and the sun had not yet set, the whole building exuded an indescribable chill. This wasn't just something imagined, it was a chill that could be felt just by standing there. This inexplicable coldness made both Afeng and Yumi feel uneasy. Afeng noticed Yumi's unease and quietly reassured him, saying that it was quiet here and they would be able to get a good night's sleep. Yumi didn't say much, just silently carried his luggage and followed him into the hotel lobby. After checking in, Afang's room was assigned on the 3rd floor, while Yumi's was on the 4th. As the elevator ascended, Yumi looked at his phone with a serious expression and said to Afang, "This hotel looks especially creepy. What if my room is at the end of the corridor? I absolutely won't stay there." But Afang just thought he was timid and laughed, telling him not to overthink it. However, things didn't go as they wished. When they got out of the elevator, Afang found that his own room was right at the end of the corridor, on the right side of the 3rd floor. He felt a bit uneasy, but still forced himself to open the door. As soon as he put down his luggage, Yumi called, saying that his room was also at the end of the corridor on the 4th floor, and that he wanted to go downstairs to change rooms. Both of them were starving at the time, so they decided to go eat first and deal with work after dinner. Then they would return to the front desk to handle the room change procedures. After eating, the two went to the site and met the manager. By the time they returned, it was past 10. It was pitch black outside. Yumi was too scared to get his bags alone, so he called Afang for help. Afang didn't think much of it and went straight up to the 4th floor. The moment she opened the door to Yumi's room at the end of the hall, a bone-chilling cold rushed toward her. The room was very dark, with only the deep blue LED light from outside reflecting in and spreading across the entire space, making it feel eerie and oppressive. Though brave, Afang felt uneasy in the strange atmosphere. He lit the room, grabbed his bags, and hurried downstairs, leaving immediately. Later, Yumi moved to a mid-floor room far from the corridor's end. However, Feng felt that, as a man, there was no need to be overly sensitive. After much deliberation, he decided to stay in the room at the end of the third floor and did not change rooms. After saying goodnight to each other, the two spent their first night filled with unease. On the night of Monday, March 18th, Feng slept very restlessly. Around 3 in the morning, when everything was quiet, the entire hotel had fallen into a deep sleep. He was suddenly awakened by a strange noise coming from outside the window, a clear sound of someone knocking on a bowl, which was especially distinct in the stillness of the night. The noise irritated Feng so much that he couldn't help but curse out loud. He got up, turned on the light, and went to the bathroom. But when he was about to open the window to check where the sound was coming from, the knocking abruptly stopped, as if it had never happened at all. Feng didn't take the matter to heart, and he was also afraid that telling Yumi would make her even more frightened, so he kept it to himself. He lay back down on the bed, but couldn't sleep soundly for the rest of the night. During the day, work proceeded as usual, and the other 3 male colleagues also arrived in Wuxi County from Shijiazhuang. After lunch, the 5-person team officially gathered together. In the evening, everyone returned to the hotel. The 3 colleagues were assigned to a triple room on the 5th floor, which was not at the end of the corridor, making it relatively safe. After a short rest, the project leader, Lao Kai, called everyone to the room for a meeting to go over the upcoming work arrangements. Yumi was the last one to enter the room. Pale, he admitted the hotel felt unsettling. Returning from buying cigarettes, he found the building pitch black, except for their team's eerie rooms. Lao Kai also confessed to feeling an inexplicable gloom upon arrival. However, since the local host had booked the rooms, asking to move would be rude, and paying for new ones would increase expenses. So he suggested that they make do for one night, and find a suitable excuse to change places the next day. Everyone agreed with this plan, but just as the meeting was halfway through, a burst of clear children's laughter suddenly came from the corridor. The laughter was extremely distinct, not like an auditory hallucination, but it lasted only 2 or 3 seconds before vanishing instantly. The surroundings returned to dead silence once again. This sudden burst of playful laughter completely shattered Feng's psychological defenses. She could no longer suppress her inner fear and immediately pulled old Kai to go back to the room at the end of the 3rd floor to get her luggage, insisting that she would not stay there alone, no matter what. She insisted on squeezing into one room with her colleagues for the night, so the 2 of them returned to Feng's room at the end of the hall. Feng said he needed to use the bathroom first, so old Kai sat on the sofa by the bed to wait. The room had a neat square layout, with the bathroom on the left as you entered, directly facing the window. There was a sofa bed placed under the window, and the bed was pressed up against the left wall. While Feng was in the bathroom, he suddenly heard old Kai urging him in an anxious tone, "Feng, hurry up and pack your things. We're changing rooms right now." The panic in his voice was completely different from the calmness just moments before. Feng didn't think much of it, quickly packed his luggage, and followed old Kai and the other colleagues to check out immediately and head to a new hotel in the center of Wuxi County. It wasn't until they left that remote guest house that everyone truly felt the stark contrast between 2 different worlds. There weren't even any streetlights around the old hotel. It was pitch black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. In contrast, the new hotel in the county center was brightly lit, bustling with people, lively and reassuring. They booked 3 rooms, from left to right, 2 twin rooms, and 1 room with a large bed. Feng and Lao Kai stayed in the middle twin room. The other 2 male colleagues stayed in the left twin room, and Yumi stayed in the right room with the large bed. In this safe environment, the chaotic day finally came to an end. March 19th. On Tuesday, when the team was getting ready to head to the worksite, they noticed that Yumi was missing. After calling him, they found out that he had developed a high fever early in the morning and could only stay in his room to rest. Everyone just thought it was a regular fever, and since Yumi had already finished the preliminary coordination work, they just told him to take his medicine on time and rest well, without disturbing him too much. When they returned to the hotel in the evening, his colleagues brought Yumi some food and water, and after a brief check-in, everyone went to rest. On Wednesday, March 20th, Yumi's high fever still had not subsided. There was no sign of improvement at all. Seeing this, Feng was worried. After discussing with the company boss, he put aside his work and took Yumi to the hospital for a checkup. After examining him, the doctor gave him an injection to reduce the fever, and the 2 of them returned to the hotel. In the afternoon, Yumi's condition improved slightly. After the fever subsided, his appetite returned and he seemed to be in better spirits. Colleagues urged him to recover in Changzhou, saying health comes first and others would handle his work. But the mild Yumi grew stubborn, refusing to leave Wuxi County. Despite their persuasion, he insisted on staying. This puzzled everyone. Usually, the sick want to go home, but Yumi's resistance was bizarre. Still, no one forced him. They had no choice but to let him stay. That night, the 4 male colleagues had a simple meal and then went back to their rooms to rest. On Thursday, March 21st, Yumi told everyone that his fever had subsided, but he still stayed in his room and refused to go to the work site. When his colleagues asked him to come over and help liven up the atmosphere, he did not reply for a long time. After a while, he finally responded with just one sentence. He did not have time, he was busy chatting with someone else. Lao Chai found this very strange and pressed him about who he was chatting with, but he just repeated himself and wouldn't say more. Everyone was busy and ignored him, so they let him be. But that night, Yumi's fever returned. Worried, Lao Kai and Afeng took him to Wuji Central Hospital for a full checkup, fearing the first exam was incomplete. After a round of examinations, the doctors maintained their previous opinion and diagnosed it as acclimatization issues, advising him to rest well and pay attention to his diet. On Friday, March 22nd, everyone followed the doctor's advice and did not disturb Yumi again, letting him recuperate quietly alone in the hotel. However, starting from Thursday afternoon, Yumi lost his appetite and didn't eat anything at all throughout Friday. When his colleagues returned in the evening, they specially bought him some light food and porridge, urging him to eat at least a little. On Saturday, March 23rd, it was the final stage of the event, and work was especially busy. During the day, everyone sent messages to Yumi, but received no reply. It wasn't until the afternoon that they finally heard back from him. He said that he had started running a fever again. By this point, his high fever had been recurring for 4 or 5 days, without any sign of recovery. Everyone was busy wrapping up the event, and it wasn't until the evening that they managed to arrange for 2 colleagues to take Yumi to the hospital. The diagnosis was still acclimatization issues, and the doctor once again advised him to return to the hotel and rest. But on the way back to the hotel from the hospital, the colleagues accompanying him noticed that Yumi was becoming increasingly strange. He sat in the car, muttering to himself from time to time. Sometimes, in the middle of speaking, he would suddenly let out a bizarre laugh, which sent chills down the spines of his colleagues in the car. On Sunday, March 24th, the week-long event was officially declared a complete failure. Everyone was already eager to wrap things up as soon as possible, originally planning to finish up that night and head back early the next morning. But misfortunes never come alone. On their way back to the hotel that evening, the Chinese team was involved in a car accident. Fortunately, although the car was hit, no one was injured. The string of strange incidents left Lao Kai feeling uneasy, so he immediately decided not to delay any longer. He arranged for a private car to drive them overnight to Zhengzhou, where they would stay near the airport and catch an early flight back to Changzhou the next morning. Once the transportation was arranged, everyone went straight to knock on Yumi's door. They told him to pack his things and go to Zhengzhou together, and Yumi agreed from inside the room. But half an hour later, when the car arrived downstairs at the hotel, there was still no sign of Yumi coming down. Feng and Lao Chai went upstairs again to knock on the door, and from inside came Yumi's calm yet resolute voice. "I'm not going. I'll go to the airport by myself tomorrow." Despite their repeated attempts to persuade him, Yumi refused to change his mind. Her attitude was extremely firm, leaving everyone helpless. Plus, since everyone was eager to leave this strange place and didn't want to stay any longer, they had no choice but to set off for Zhengzhou first. On the way, they sent Yumi a voice message, reminding her to stay safe and to return on time the next day. On Monday, March 25th, Zhongyuan woke up and it was already noon. He had to catch a flight back to Changzhou after 3 p.m. During this time, everyone tried calling Yumi multiple times, but no one ever answered, and their messages also went unanswered. Lao Chai couldn't stop worrying, afraid that Yumin might be sick and unattended, so he called the hotel front desk and asked the staff to check on Yumin in room 306, explaining that he was unwell and they were concerned something might have happened. Not long after, the hotel front desk called back. When the staff went to check, Yumi's voice sounded loud and clear from inside the room, not at all like someone who was sick. However, no matter how much they knocked, he refused to open the door. It was obvious that Fang En was deliberately avoiding everyone. Hearing this, the others found the situation even more suspicious. Before, when they urged him back, he refused. Now, they couldn't reach him or get him to open the door. His actions seemed suspicious. But as adults, they couldn't force his hand. They just cancelled Yumi's ticket and asked him to call before returning. They would need new tickets if he returned. Everyone rushed to the airport, feeling exhausted. After landing in Nanjing, they took a high-speed train to Changzhou. By the time they finally got home, it was past 10 at night. The mental strain and travel left them utterly drained. After a quick wash, they fell into a deep sleep. On Tuesday, March 26th, Feng tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. He woke up before 6 in the morning, dozed off in a daze for a while, and was then startled by a sudden, urgent phone call at 9:10 a.m. Suddenly, the urgent call jolted Ah Feng, who had been drifting in and out of sleep. The caller was his company boss. As soon as the call connected, the boss's heart-wrenching sobs and accusatory voice came through. "Where are you?" Still groggy, Ah Feng replied that he was at home in Changzhou. Immediately after, the boss, still crying, delivered a piece of horrifying news that sent chills down Ah Feng's spine. Sister Yi is dead. She died in room 306 of a hotel in Wuxi County. Because the room hadn't been renewed on time the previous day, a housekeeping staff member had come to knock on the door. There was no response, no matter how many times they knocked. With no other choice, they had to unlock the door to check, only to discover that Yumi had already passed away. After hearing this, Ah Feng was stunned at first, then immediately broke down in tears, unable to accept the reality. He quickly called Lao Chai to inform him of what had happened, and Lao Chai was also deeply shocked. They comforted Ah Feng and told him to first meet up at the boss's house, and that they would discuss things further when they met later. Afterwards, Ah Feng, Lao Chai and several other colleagues, along with the boss and Yumin's husband, all rushed to Wuzhishan to cooperate with Xingfang in making a statement. During the investigation, everyone learned that the last message Yumi sent was a voice message to the boss at midnight on March 25th. When the boss saw the message, he thought of his 3-year-old daughter who was sleeping at home. Afraid that playing the voice message would wake the child, and since the speech-to-text function failed, and he couldn't check the content, he decided to contact Yumi the next morning. Unexpectedly, what he received instead was tragic news. Following the police's advice, the boss played this final voice message, but after listening to only half of it, his face turned deathly pale, and he was so frightened that he dropped his phone and dared not listen to it a second time. When everyone pressed him about the content of the message, the police did not disclose it, citing the ongoing investigation. As for Yumi's cause of death, the police never gave a clear conclusion either, only stating that the cause was unknown, which made the whole incident even more mysterious. At this point, the main storyline concerning the team members temporarily comes to an end, but for Ah Feng, the bizarre experiences were not yet over. April 1st, Monday, was the 7th day after Yumi's passing. Ever since Yumi died, Ah Feng had been immersed in grief. Not only were they from the same hometown, but they were also the closest colleagues. This sudden parting left him unable to let go for a long time. That night, Ah Feng was lost in thought as he gradually fell asleep, and then he had an incredibly vivid and realistic dream. In the dream, a thick fog enveloped the entire world. Visibility was poor. He and Yumi sat in a rickshaw through thick fog. The route mirrored their previous trip to Wuxi County. Eventually, the rickshaw stopped. As the fog cleared, the sight left Ah Feng astonished. The sky was a murky yellow, as if illuminated by a forest fire, yet it also exuded a profound darkness. There was no sun, nor any other source of light, making it impossible to tell whether it was day or night. What lay before him was not a modern village, but rather an ancient city stretching endlessly into the distance. There were no tall buildings, only rows of old houses with blue-tiled roofs arranged in an orderly yet varied fashion. No household had lanterns hanging outside, yet every corner was clearly visible, with no discernible source of light. The atmosphere was both eerie and oppressive. The two of them walked into a hall that resembled an old post station. The upper half of the walls was painted white, while the lower half, over a meter high, was painted green, making it look just like the corridors of an old hospital, spacious yet desolate. Yumin told Ah Feng to wait where he was, saying he would be back soon. Ah Feng nodded in agreement. The entire hall was empty, with only the two of them there. Yumin walked into an inner room, and didn't come out for a long time. When he finally returned, he walked up to Ah Feng, squinted his eyes with a smile and said, "Ah Feng, I can't leave anymore, let me take you back." "You have to go back." Before Ah Feng could react, the scene before his eyes suddenly changed. He found himself sitting in a red rickshaw which slowly drove into the thick fog. Immediately after he jolted awake from the dream, his whole body drenched in cold sweat. In a panic, he grabbed his phone to check the time, only to find that just 10 minutes had passed since he fell asleep. Yet the experience in the dream felt incredibly long. Just the time spent waiting in the lobby was far more than 10 minutes. The sensations were so real, the atmosphere so oppressive, that it didn't feel like a dream at all. Terrified, Ah Feng flicked on the light. Yumi's dream smile haunted him, stiff, eerie, and unnatural. Too scared to close his eyes, he stayed awake all night. Early next morning, he called his mother to report the dream. His mother was very worried, and immediately decided to go to Changzhou to stay with Ah Feng for a while. Later, after being persuaded by his family, Ah Feng specifically went to see a well-known local shaman. After listening to his story, the shaman told him that he had a strong fate, and his time in the world was not yet up. In the dream, he had visited Fengdu City, but because of old feelings, Yumi couldn't bring him along with her. Since then, Afeng never had that dream again, but the ancient city shrouded in darkness without any light, and Yumi's stiff, smiling face from the dream were forever etched in his mind, impossible to forget. Time moved forward to November 17, 2021. More than 2 years had passed since the incident. By chance, Afeng met Lao Chai, the project leader from back then. The two hadn't seen each other in a long time, and they sat down together to drink and chat. After a few drinks, Afeng once again brought up the strange incident in Wuji County from back then. All these years, there was still one question he hadn't figured out. Afeng asked Lao Chai, "That time you went with me to the north building to get my luggage, you originally just said we'd go squeeze in and stay with everyone else. Why did you suddenly become so anxious? You insisted on changing hotels that very night." Lao Chai was silent for a moment, then looked at Afeng and asked in return, "Do you really want to know, Yunying?" Afeng nodded. After all these years, this question had always lingered in his mind. Lao Chai slowly said, "That day, I was sitting on the sofa in your room and happened to glance at the TV on the left. The TV was off, the screen completely black, but I clearly saw a face reflected in that dark screen. Whose face was it?" "It was Yumi's."